Welcome to ESPN FC Live. Alexis Nunes here alongside Ali Krieger and Julian Laurens, and we are talking about the Women's Euros semifinals. The second one now has been decided, and it looks like deja vu. We are getting a rematch of the Women's World Cup final that we saw last time down under in Sydney. It's going to be England against España. But first, the Spanish had to take it to extra time to get the best of Germany. It was quite a battle. Ali, we were talking off camera and you were like, geez, what a game. And the way it was going, I was surely saying, come on, Spain, surely you're not going to wait till extra time to try and put this to bed. And look, Alexia Putellas said that this was a chance for Spain not to get revenge, because we know they haven't had the best track record against Germany. They've never made a Women's Euro final. But instead, she said it's just an opportunity to do better. I don't know if they did better today, because they did it sufriendo, as they said, suffering, weren't they, Ali?
Yeah, absolutely. I was assuming that Spain was going to come out and had, created more opportunities in front of goal. Were able to put the ball in the back of the net a little more often than at the very end of extra time, with Bonmati coming in and doing what she does well and taking that decision to make it difficult for her and Katrin Berger to make the save. I know that, Germany, they were set up very well defensively. They had that same mentality that carried through the entire tournament. They should be so proud still of this performance. But yes, ultimately Spain held strong with their possession-oriented style throughout, recycling the ball through Bonmati and Alexia Putellas, who was a bit more quiet this match than I've seen her, obviously, throughout the entire tournament. But they had combination play in and around the box, which made it difficult for Germany towards the end of the extra time to hold it. But their patient buildup, created this opportunity, which ultimately led them to win and get to the final for the very first time since 1997, and now against England, who has been in 3 finals consistently the past 3 opportunities. So this will be a rematch of what we want to see from before in the World Cup. So incredible for Spain. What a fight to the very end. Germany, they did look dangerous, a few opportunities there, especially towards the end of the game, which I thought they were going to tie it to go into PKs. But brilliant game, really exciting, very transitional. Ultimately, Spain came out on top.
Yeah, Jules. Well, these were the German girls that took out your French girls as well. We spoke in depth about that game. Spain still, despite the mental fortitude that we know Germany had heading into this, Spain still were those favorites to win. But Germany, once again, found a way to push them, despite the fact that they had injuries to that back line, despite the fact that they had suspensions as well as a result of that game against France too. But Germany pushed Spain, but Spain finding the way, and the difference was Aitana Bonmati, as we have seen so many times.
Yeah, and we said it after the quarterfinals win against Switzerland, when she broke the deadlock with that wonderful back heel on the first goal. And again tonight, when Spain were maybe not at their best, and some of the other superstars that they have, like Putellas, maybe not at their best, she came out with a moment of genius. Really, that's what you think. We all expected a cross. Berger expected a cross, and instead, it's clearly what she wanted to do. She went at the near post, and it's just even to let the ball run like she did, to then accelerate behind, and then to shoot like she did in that tight angle to score. It's just wonderful. That's why she's the best player in the world. That's why she's the Ballon d'Or winner, not just once but twice. I feel a bit for Lohmann, who just came on for Germany and should never lose the ball where she did lose the ball that led them to the goal. But that's part of the game. When you play against a team with so many strong individual players, at some point collectively, Germany were great. They were resilient again, so well organized, so good defensively. But you can be undone by just a moment of genius, of brilliance, and that's what happened again.
Yeah, Ali, what did you think of Aitana's goal as well? Because as Jules said, we don't want to criticize Germany too much, because this is Aitana. When she does get a chance, she does take it. But what did you make of her goal as well as Germany's missed chances? Because they did have some opportunities to, I suppose, turn the results on its head.
Yeah, they were organized defensively and disciplined up until that moment where you could see the tired legs kind of kick in, and you never want to lose a ball in that type of area, because one of the best players, if not the best player in the world, will take advantage of you in that moment. I do think it was going to be a cross, and then potentially just ended up going in the back of the net. I'm unsure if that was purposeful or not, but because it's who she is, I'm sure she has that in her cards. And so I was still very impressed, though, with Buell and Brand up top. They're committed to trying to get in behind, trying to go at the back line of Spain and really taking those counter movements, just creating opportunities, which I thought they did fairly well. I think just in the end, they just lacked that composure in the final third, right? There were chances, little bits and pieces, but in order to beat a team like Spain, who is so technical, so skillful, and so transitional in those moments with confidence, you have to be more clinical in front of goal. And so I think them taking those chances, it could have been a lot better in the final third for Germany. And you're also missing key defenders like Hendrik, who was out with that red card, and then Nushkin, who was brilliant all tournament. So I think when the fatigue set in, those are the type of players that you wish you had out on the field supporting you in the back line. So Berger had an amazing tournament. She kept Germany in for multiple games. Especially when they needed it towards the end. But ultimately, I mean, you have Paredes, you have Bonmati, you have even Esther. Yeah, she didn't create too much, but she's really difficult to defend because she loves to get into these tight spaces, get on the ball, and create, unpredictability in and around the box. So they're a handful. And I think ultimately, when you don't have your fully fit team, towards the end of the game, Spain just took advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly. And Jules may only be good enough to play Sunday League or whatever is below Sunday League, but let me tell you, this man loves a tactical breakdown. I know you love your football, Jules, and this one was definitely a game for the tactics lovers because we're talking about Spain, who literally play the sexiest football, I think men or women's team. We all talk about it around the world. It was always going to be how their attack and their possession base would go up against what has been a very strong, disciplined German team, even though they did not have a couple of the big names, as we mentioned, because of injuries, because of suspensions as well. So in terms of the tactical battles, who stood out to you? What did you make of it all?
Yeah, I thought it was great. And we saw a similar kind of mindset from Germany against France, even before the red card. That was really early on. But the 4-5-1, I think, worked quite well for Germany in the last two games, even tonight. But it's so hard to play against Spain. Ali said it. There's so much rotation, so much movement with the three midfield, with the three forwards, with your two fullbacks. But for Germany, it was always going to be direct. The first chance for Clara Bull comes from that goal kick from Berger, the flick from Hoffmann. And then she's through, and we've had that directness from the two wingers, especially Bull and Brandt, and that's where you can get at Spain. That's what England will have to look at and try to maybe reproduce. Be aggressive when you can, go and press them when you can. Don't let them play. But you also know at times your block will have to go back quite a lot and play either medium block or deeper block because they're just so good on the ball. They're just so good at passing the ball. And again, with that rotation, it's so hard to don't give them any space, as we saw on the Bonmati goal when the Germans were tired. So it's going to be very difficult for England tactically to just compete and match up with Spain. But Germany showed tonight that you could do it. Switzerland, to be fair, defended really well for an hour in the quarterfinals, but they were just never going to be good enough. England are probably good enough, not just to defend the whole game, but also to take the ball to Spain and then create their own chances and keep the ball a bit better even than what Germany did today.
Yeah, we also have to remember who England tend to have coming off of the bench in terms of fresh legs, which could come in handy. But we'll get to that in a bit. We will preview the final soon. Just want to put the bow, Ali, on this semifinal as well, because if you're Spain, of course, you're getting through. And I know you have been there as well on a top U.S. women's national team where you're definitely not playing your best performance, but you have someone like Aitana Bonmati, but you do know going into a final as well, you can't necessarily always just rely on that spark, on that extra player, on that special player, as special as they are. We've seen Argentina suffer on the men's side too with Lionel Messi as well. So going into this one, looking back at this game, how happy do you think Spain would be with their performance, or what questions will they be asking after this?
I do think that, Germany posed a challenge for Spain to have a better understanding of how to break a team down when they sit in a lower block. And Spain is very comfortable in doing that because of their, the way that they can possess the ball and the way that they can combine in and around the box to create opportunities out of nothing. And you have players who can create something out of nothing. But big players have to show up in big games and make big plays. And that is what Bonmati did. So you have these individuals who are capable of doing that in moments that you need that brilliance, which you can count on Spain every single moment of the game to accomplish that. But Germany did pose that threat, because when you saw these long balls from Germany, which is uncharacteristic of them throughout the entire tournament, at least, they were playing longer balls and trying to disrupt play, trying to be unpredictable because they wanted to catch Spain out on the transition, and then knew that Buell and Brand could go, for pace in behind, which could end up hurting Spain. But I just don't think that, they threatened Catacol enough. And especially when you have Olga coming up on the left-hand side, and Pina's movement and connection with Putellas and Bonmati. I mean, it's just too many powerhouses on the field at once, and too many threats. So Germany couldn't, allow too many players to go forward, because they would have, been eaten alive, so to speak, if that Spain would regain the ball and quickly go on transition to break lines. So they had to be careful, and they had to sit back a little bit more. That's why you saw some of the options going over instead of around or through for Germany. And that's why they had, some type of switch, adjustment, I should say, not a switch, but an adjustment during the game. And ultimately Spain just had the legs and had the commitment and had the ability to continue that possession style that they love to play, and that's so beautiful to watch. And then you just need one moment of brilliance from the best player in the world, and you have to get her on the ball in that moment, and she did what she did best. So ultimately, Germany was disciplined defensively. It just wasn't good enough in the final third.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's get to it, shall we? Let's preview the final. Jules, we'll start with you on this one, because it is a rematch of the last Women's World Cup final. I was there down under in Sydney, where the Spanish took down the English. It was a high-flying England as well. And now here we go. We're still talking about a high-flying England who may not have been playing the best football that the Lionesses have been known to play, but they still get the job done, Jules, fighting. And that's exactly what tournament football really is about: choosing your moments, fighting, getting gritty, even if it's not the beautiful, perfect game that we all planned for. Looking back at 2023 and the final, both Spain and both England, in terms of how both teams have grown, Jules, who do you think has a slight edge going into this one?
I think it has to be Spain, and it has been 2 difficult years, obviously, for everything that happened after that triumph in Australia in that World Cup win for them. But look at them now. They are by far the best team in the world. And Ali said it, they just have so much talent individually and collectively. And it's hard to see how you just stop them. You can stop them by being so disciplined and organized, but at some point, somebody's going to do something special, and that's going to undo you. You're going to try to play like them and leave too many space, and they're going to punish you for it and hit you in transition with their passing, with their mobility, with their transition, everything. So I think it's very difficult. England, I don't think are as good as they were 2 years ago. I don't think they are as good as they were at the last Euros either. I think you're right, Alexis. They have quality in the sense that they don't give up and they keep going and keep going. But they also have been quite fortunate, I think, to get that far in this tournament. They haven't been great. I saw them against France on their opening game, and they were poor for most of that game, really. So I just personally don't see how they can compete with Spain. And I think unless Spain make big mistakes or don't take their chances, or maybe are not at their best because of nerves or expectations and finally winning their first Euros ever, I just don't see how they can stop them.
Ali, do you feel like there's more pressure on Spain to win this one than England? Because as Jules said, all of the storylines just heading into this Euros has been about Spain suffering heartbreak at the Olympics last year to getting into this one. All the players like Aitana Bonmati as well as Alexia Putellas talking about how they want this one. Don't think that just because they have the World Cup, the Euros, doesn't mean that much to them. They absolutely want to win this one. So more pressure for England, or considering the storylines as well following Serena Wigman and, as Jules said, probably an aging Lionesses team, a changing of the guard, or would you see more pressure on Spain?
I think there's more pressure on Spain, right, to just complete the tournament as well as they've been playing and as good as they have been in recent years, and how confident they are and motivated to win their title in Europe. And it's been since 1997, so reaching the final even. And then I do think there's extra motivation on this tournament because they were kind of overshadowed by the harassment after they won the World Cup. And it was more so about that topic rather than actually winning and really getting what they deserve and being celebrated for that. It was kind of overshadowed by all of that harassment and issue that was within the Spanish Federation. So I'm happy now that they have an opportunity to, have their moment potentially and win and really be celebrated the way that they should have been after the World Cup. And so this is just a repeat of that. And I think that this is a moment that they can really take as long as they put the pieces together, they have the right personnel, they continue to stay patient in whatever they, however they are going to come out and play and their game plan, because it's been working and they stayed patient all throughout the game versus Germany. And then in the end, they were rewarded with that patience and that collective team performance. So as long as they stay to their game plan, they stay confident in who they are, and they have that extra motivation now wanting to win, and they're finally back in the Euro final. So it's a lot of pressure for them. But the way that they've been playing and the players who they have and the depth that they have and the substitutions that they can make, they should be, coming in forces, to the max against England. And England, the way that they've been playing, I don't think that, much will change in the lineup. So the substitutions have to be ready to go and be firing towards the end as soon as they get their opportunity. I don't know if Serena Wigman is really going to change much in this match just because it's a final, or especially because it's a final. So Spain have the pressure, but England have to be more prepared and play a lot better than they have been in the last few games this tournament.
Yeah, and look, England in the Euros, we know they don't necessarily have a point to prove, Jules. They are the defending champions for a reason. But there has been a lot of talk in the last 4 years, especially at this tournament. So you do feel, considering you live in England, you definitely will know what the chatter is surrounding Serena Wigman, the part that 50% or a lot of people want to hold on to that Euros women's team, even though a couple of players have retired since, but want to hold on to that identity because it worked so well in the last Euros. But we have been talking about how people figure you out after time, and we've seen more and more teams figuring out England and pushing them to the brink and them leaving it late and having to call for fresh legs like Michelle Agiman, so seeing as well Chloe Kelly coming off of the bench. So everyone asking for Serena Wigman to make some changes. We know she's not going to, and that's fine. But how much does she need to win this final before people start really questioning her and her identity, and if it's time for England to move on from what we saw 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think they are questioning her already. I think you can see it both ways. You can see, okay, her substitutions have worked because look how many, the 2 games that England won late, thanks to Serbs. I thought in the semi-final, Agyemang came on far too late. I thought Chloe Kelly came on far too late, and England could have won that game against Italy way earlier if she had got the substitutions earlier and right. And I don't think Wigman has been good this tournament. Overall, I think she took far too long against France, for example, in the opening game to react to what she was seeing and the game that we were all watching. And it has been like that for me through this whole tournament. Okay, they're in the final. That's her 3rd final in a row. In terms of Euros, which is incredible. The one with the Dutch that she won, the one with England that she won, and then this one. And she can potentially do the 3-peat, which would be incredible. I give her that. But I just don't think she's been that great, really. And I think the one area especially that hasn't worked is the midfield. Walsh and Stanway with Toon or Lauren James in the first game. And if there's one thing you have to get right against Spain is your midfield. Because Patry, Putellas, and Bonmati are going to kill you if you're not ready in that midfield. And right now, unless she's changing something, the Stanway Walsh kind of double pivot with whoever plays as a 10, for me, would not work against this Spanish team. But let's see what she does. And she still has a few days to prepare for it, and she can come up with something tactically that will help her team. Or it won't be the case, and I think that could be a very long night for England.
Yeah, Ali, what do you think about what Jules said there about those midfield questions for England? Because I think a few years ago, or even just a year or two ago, I think anybody anywhere would have taken Keira Walsh in their midfield now. But in terms of how she is being paired now with Georgia Stanway, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I was thinking of that key matchup, right, in midfield in the central three, and how that is going to be such a battle with Bonmati, Patrie, Alexia Putellas against, Walsh, who's, a little bit older, and she's been playing every minute of every game. And Beth Mead can kind of come in if Stanway, is lacking that pace or the legs to go the full 90, which she had a positive effect on the game last match, where she drew the soft PK as we saw, but it ended up being the key in England's win. So, there are a few other options there. And then, Ella Toone, I mean, she comes in, she's been brilliant. I don't know if, there's going to be any changes up top. We've spoken about that, yesterday after the match, and wondering if she's going to make those changes for the final. Like we said before, I just think their aerial power might have, an advantage over the Spanish midfield, but technically, tactically, the vision and the knowledge aspect on that level, it's going to be a lot of work for England to really shut down Patrie and Putellas and a Bonmati, and getting in and around, combining consistently. The way that they've been playing has just been out of this world and unmatched. So they're going to have their hands full. And then you have your fullbacks, right? The Spanish fullbacks coming forward, getting into the attack, and which also causes a problem where, that'll hopefully keep Greenwood and Bronze busy, which then will have whole other layer of an effect for England to have to defend. So the aerial power on set pieces could be their advantage, but Spain's, passing and vision and ability to just combine in small spaces, even create numbers up wide in those areas, I think are going to cause a lot of problems. So England will have to make sure that they are consistent in their build out and are able to keep possession as well and defend as a unit rather than individually. Because if they are caught 1v1 around the field and out of shape, and their compactness gets disjointed, then they're going to have real issues.
Jules, just a question too, because again, questioning what does Sarina Wiegman have to do in this one? Just the Lauren James question as well. We spoke about it a little bit with Ali and Mark Ogden, who you always know is just a breath of positivity. But he did point out that, yes, nobody's saying that Lauren James is not that girl for England 100%. She's that X factor for them when she's 100%. But when she's not, even if she's 99%, she doesn't necessarily have the same impact that England need in these big moments. We saw it just as well yesterday in the semifinal, where she had to be taken off, also knowing that she may still have that niggle, may still have that injury. What does Sarina Wiegman do? Does she play her? Does she start her?
The only problem is she's not a super sub. She's not the kind of player that comes on for the last 20 minutes or 15 minutes because she's not really fully fit. And has that kind of impact on the game. I think she needs to start. It's where you start her, how you start her. And again, I think it's difficult sometimes for her if the team around her is not performing well, because she's by far the best technical player in this England team. By far, she could easily play for Spain and combine with everybody else in that Spanish team. With England, it's different. The rest are not really at her level. And I just think if there's no options around her, if there's not enough movement around her, if she can't really find the pass that she needs or that she wants, or that even she sees that others don't see, then you take a lot away from her game. So, and that's why, again, I think Wiegman hasn't really been able to find a solution to this issue, on this problem. And I'm not saying Lauren James is a problem. The problem is how you put Lauren James in the best environment for her to perform at her best. Whether she's 100% or 90, 80%, it doesn't matter so much. She's still your best player. And I think Wigman has really struggled to put her in the right environment to be able to deliver. She did against the Dutch, but again, I'm not sure how good the Dutch really were in this tournament. So for the final, if she starts Lauren James, I think she needs to find, again, the right formula to get the best out of her, because we haven't really seen it so far.
Yeah, Ali, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I do think she has to start, right? But I do agree with how her style of play is more like the Spanish style of play, where she doesn't love to defend. She doesn't love to run too much, right? And she's really good in those tight spaces, like a Kat Macario in the 10, right? You can give her the ball in any kind of space and she can collect it. She can bring it down. Her technical ability is unmatched, and she's able to then combine in those smaller spaces. But you're not going to get her to run in behind. You're not going to get her, fighting for end line and having to, serve crosses in. She's the one that's going to be on the end of crosses. She's going to, be the creator in the middle of the park, where she's going to cut in and get close in and around the 18 to be able to create opportunities. So as long as they stay compact, she does have to start. And then Chloe Kelly can come on just like she has been later on. If she can't go the full 90 plus, however long it's going to take for them to win, but she has to start. And then Chloe Kelly can fill in, the rest of the match if that is the case and if it's needed. But England have to stay compact and can't allow Spain to, move between the lines, right, and break lines with their passes. And I think they just have to be direct and purposeful, right? They have to take advantage of their aerial presence on set pieces and be able to win the ball back as quickly as possible. Once they regain it, then they have to keep that possession, because it's once you win the ball back from the Spanish team, then you have to take a breath and you have to be willing to commit to be that consistent in the possession style game, because you're going to be working so hard off the ball defending that you're not going to have a lot of that energy wanting to go forward immediately. So you have to be patient. And then Spain, obviously, just play their game. They need to keep that patience and that possession that they showed against Germany and the other teams, throughout this tournament, and play their style no matter how the opponent sets up, no matter how England will set up defensively, especially being in a low block, right? When you move England side to side, that's when you see those holes open up, and that's when they need to take advantage of that. But I think they just have to watch for England transitions, which is where James could, hurt you in the middle of the park, because those quick counters could be pretty lethal. And then use the depth, right? Like they have been on the flanks, because that's where they found success, especially in the goal with Bonmati. And they could change the game off the bench with a lot of their depth. So it's going to be a brilliant match. It's going to be a back and forth, but ultimately England have to stay committed to their compactness and to their confidence in the style of play that they know that they can come out and perform. And then Spain they have to continue to do what they do. But be careful on, getting everybody forward, because England does, can get you in behind and beat you in those lethal areas.
Yeah. All right. Well, final thoughts, Jules. What are you looking forward to in this one?
I think the contrast in style to start with, to see how England do, if they can really try to compete, and what's the plan really. I want to see a plan. I just don't want England to play deep and then try to play long on Russo or on Hemp and just don't really have a plan. I want them to have a plan. If Lauren James starts, I want her to come in. I want them to try to disturb this Spanish machine that has been so good and so conquering. And then for Spain, I just want them to play like they usually do, because then we'll have a great final. If England have a plan and Spain are at their best and play their football, then we should have a great game, like Ali just said, and then may the best win. I think the best would be Spain.
Oh, England and long balls. That's a match made in heaven since the 1960s. Ali, what about you? What are you most looking forward to in this one before we wrap?
I just want to see this such a great matchup, right? These are two incredible teams in Europe, two of obviously the best teams in Europe who have fought their way through to the final, and now is your moment to shine. It is the best platform and the pinnacle of your sport to play in the European tournament, one of the best tournaments and the best tournament in Europe. And this is an opportunity for you to shine. This is another opportunity for you to go out there and, play in a match that you've worked your entire life for. So I hope And I mean, I know because we've been in this position where you have everything to play for, and this is the moment to shine. And so I hope we just see, you know, the biggest players on the biggest stage make the biggest plays and just enjoy the match. And I'm assuming Spain is gonna take everything, but England, you know, has that mentality, and they've proven it game after game. So with that mentality and that brilliant, beautiful style, Spanish style that we've seen over the years, it's going to be an incredible game, and I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, lots on the line for both. It could be a revenge match for England, and it could be a chance for Spain to make even more history, because Lord knows they have done such a good job of that. Jules, Ali, thank you so much for hanging with me for this one. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We will be back right here after the final. It's England versus Spain for the Women's Euro title this Sunday.